Hello folks, there's quite a lot of news around at the moment, so I thought I'd do an extra little news video for you despite having one only last week. And the first story here is from Auto Express, and it's their editor-in-chief Steve Fowler is moving on. Steve's been with Auto Express for 12 years. He's worked for basically all the big magazines over the years. I've always really liked his content, both written and the video stuff he's done. The videos always had a little bit of fun in them, but weren't a complete clown show. Now, if you're not aware, Auto Express is owned by a company called Autocar, and they've recently been purchased by 𝘼𝙁𝙁𝙄𝙇𝙄𝙼𝙀. And Autocar have also got magazines like Evo, Car Buyer, etc. So that whole group has been bought by 𝘼𝙁𝙁𝙁𝙁. And whenever these things happen, you know, people get moved on. And unbelievably, they've obviously made the decision to move Steve on, unless he's gone of his own accord. But I think he's very well respected in the industry, brilliant at what he does, and I hope he pops up somewhere again soon. And I hope Auto Express remains one of the best car news sources out there after Steve's departure. I've never met him, don't know him, but good luck, Steve. New RAC and CMA data shows that retailer margins and fuel prices have been going up. Basically, they're calling here for the government to step in and actually start policing retailer margins properly, making sure that there is competition in the market and that the consumers are getting a good deal based on that competition. I think probably everyone watching this video would join me and probably say, yes, let's police this better. Let's put firm margins in place that retailers have to adhere to, because at the moment they're just increasing the price of what is already a very expensive commodity. Lamborghini Temerario, I don't know how you say that, emerges as potential name for Huracan supercar successor. New trademark filing may have revealed the name of Lamborghini's new junior supercar. I'm sure I'll be able to confirm that to you shortly, as I no doubt will get an invitation to have one of those in for review. Now, that word means bold or fearless in Italian, apparently. Lamborghini typically names their cars after Spanish fighting bulls. Obviously, the logo for Lamborghini is a bull. But let's wait and see. Renault and Volvo to create revolutionary next-generation Flexis electric vans. The companies will work together to create a family of electric vans based on an EV-dedicated skateboard platform. This is really interesting. More and more legacy manufacturers are coming together to work on electric vehicles, and I think this can only be a good thing. To be honest, I wish more manufacturers would come together to work on things like infotainment systems, because they all spend God knows how many millions developing systems that are often completely flawed. I guess the other option with that is they leave it to Google or to Apple to do that for them. But this can only be a good thing, surely. At first glance, it seems like a little bit of an odd coalition, Renault and Volvo, but they're actually working together to create a generation of new fully electric vans along with French shipping and logistics company CMA CGM, and that coalition's formed a new company called Flexis. And the idea is all three members of the coalition bring their own expertise and knowledge to the party, and they end up with better vehicles at the end of it. Really interesting that they've actually got a logistics company in, so they can focus on the things that are really important to a logistics firm. So it's going to be a skateboard platform, so essentially everything's on the chassis and you plop the lid on top. That means it's going to be very flexible. It's going to be based on 800-volt architecture. They're saying here the new panel van's going to be smaller than the current Renault Traffic, but despite the fact that it's smaller, it's going to have more load volume. Due to clever design, basically. These are going to start hitting the roads from 2026, evidently. More Renault news. The Captur's got a dramatic new facelift and Google-powered tech. That can't be a bad thing, can it? Google power in a Renault. Renault small SUV has taken notes from the all-electric Scenic E-Tech when it comes to design and technology. That's quite cool, because that Renault Scenic I got to spend some time with at Geneva, and the interior was really quite interesting and reasonably impressive. Not something you'd expect to find in a Renault, if I'm being honest. So you've got this iPad type thing, so ubiquitous now really. Every car has to have an iPad kind of display in. But you still do have physical buttons, which is nice. And the aircon controls stay on the screen at all times, rather than having to bugger about with menus, etc. You've also got digital driver information display. It looks much better than the outgoing model, you have to say. You've got 1 litre petrol option and a 1.6 litre hybrid, and the boot space you can increase up to 536 litres, which is pretty massive really, isn't it? If you've got the rear seats pushed all the way back, you've got 422 litres. push them forward, and you can go up to 536. Not bad. And that new Captur looks like it's going to be on sale from the end of this year. Electric car news from Xiaomi. The SU7 to offer Porsche Taycan beating performance for half the price. We're looking at 500 miles of range and a sub 3 second 0 to 62 time, which is pretty astounding. It's a great looking thing as well. You do have to say they probably owe a tip of that to Porsche with that design, don't they? I mean, yeah, it's not dissimilar. You'll see this big lump in the middle on a lot of these cars coming from China. It seems to be fairly commonplace over there, but that's like your radar, LiDAR detector kind of things. Looks a little bit odd, but it seems to be on a lot of the cars that are coming over. Also, a bit of a tip of the hat to the Ioniq 6 there, which itself owes a tip of the hat to Porsche, I think. But it's certainly not a bad looking vehicle, is it? In China, the standard car will kick off at £24,000. The Pro priced at 27 and the Max at 34,000. Now, obviously, pricing in the UK will look nothing like that. I would imagine the Max to be at least 50 grand and the base one to probably be closer to 35. But it's still going to be going up against, I mean, they say it's going up against the Taycan. Realistically, if you want a Porsche, you're not going to buy a Xiaomi as a substitute, but it's probably more likely going up against the Model 3 and some of the livelier, sporty coupe EVs, maybe the Ioniq 6, etc. The standard car's got 434 miles of range, 294 brake horsepower, 400 Newton meters of torque, and a 0 to 62 of 5.3 seconds. Then you've got a Pro version, which claims a range of 515 miles, and then the Max is 497 miles, but that gives you a 0 to 62 time of 2.78. When it comes to the interior, you can see influences from BYD and, of course, Tesla. Nothing particularly outrageous about it. Actually looks quite nice. You've got some nice big buttons on the steering wheel there that would suggest boost mode or drive mode. Controls, and it looks like we might even have a physical button or two, which wouldn't that be nice? So that looks really interesting. I really like the look of that car, and depending on the pricing of it, it could do very well. I think more Chinese manufacturers should probably look at buying names that are more recognised. Certainly in this country, people don't seem to want to buy cars with an unfamiliar badge. People happily went and bought Chinese MGs, didn't they? But some of the other new brands that have come to market have struggled a bit. And if this was a TVR and not a Xiaomi, despite the fact it's come from China, I think people would just find it a little bit more palatable somehow. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. On to Autocar now. The best-selling cars in the UK for 2024 so far. Number 1's the Ford Puma. Number 2's the Qashqai. 3's the Sportage. 4's the Nissan Juke. Number 5's the A3. Number 6 is the 1 Series, 7 is the Golf, 3 is the Mini, 9 is the MG, and 10 is the VW T-Roc. Not a Tesla in sight. You'll note that lots of them are mid-sized cars and smaller cars. You've got the Qashqai, the Sportage being obviously the mid-size, the Duke being a bit smaller, the A3 being a bit smaller, the 1 Series being a bit smaller, the Golf, etc. No big barges in there. And nothing massively expensive either. Something else you may or may not know is a lot of those cars are available on the Motability scheme, which really helps boost sales numbers. McLaren previews big changes with future design language. New signature draws inspiration from heritage and gives more freedom for future range expansion. This looks really cool, actually. The thing with McLaren for me is it always lacks a little bit of identity. They don't have the model names, you know, they've just got lots of numbers and codes. And I think they need to do more work on that, on the actual branding of the models. But these designs look really cool, and it suggests they might make things look a bit more different between the various models. Obviously, the Senna looks massively different, but lots of the others don't. So interesting to see how this turns out. Now, this is an interesting one, how AI is improving EV range. And this is Falcon Tires. They're basically using AI to reduce aerodynamic drag on tyre surfaces, and this is going to affect its 2027 tyre. The tech that's going into tyres now is insane. I'm really boring, so I've been doing a bit of reading and watching about different tyre sort of design recently. I said I'm boring. Yeah, some of the stuff that's going on is bananas. And basically they're using advanced AI tools to actually help them mold and shape a tyre to get the best grip, the best traction, but more importantly, reduce aerodynamic drag. So the wind can actually pass by the tyre without it becoming a bit of an anchor. It's fascinating stuff if you're dull, so go and have a read about that in a bit more depth. I'm wary that people watching this video might not be as dull as me and might not be anywhere near as interested, so I'm going to move on quickly. Please give the video a thumbs up, by the way, if you haven't done so already, and please leave a comment. Not enough people are giving thumbs up to the videos. It's free. Please go and do it. Thanks. Folks, just a quick mention that I've got a new sponsor, which is ALA Insurance. They're able to help out with all kinds of things like car warranty, scratch and dent insurance, key cover, all those kind of things. If you use the code GYM10, you'll get 10% off their prices on almost all the products. There's a link in the video description. Remember, use that code GYM10 and you'll get 10% off. And I'm also going to flash a QR code up on screen for you that will take you directly to the site. Go and check it out. An electric Renault Cleo is going to come along and join the Renault 5 as a more family-friendly mini electric car from Renault. And like the Renault 5, it looks like quite a striking design again. Whoever is designing the current batch of Renault cars needs a bit of a pat on the back, because they have taken things up a level. Renaults not so long ago were some of the most boring looking, unimaginative design cars on the road, in my personal opinion. Controversial as that may or may not be. But this new batch of Renaults that's coming through is so much better aesthetically, and quite nice interiors too, like surprisingly nice interiors. So the Clio will be a welcome addition to the range, in my opinion. There's not a massive amount of detail on this at the moment, fair amount of guesswork, and the guess is 25 to 30 grand as a price for it. We'll have to wait and see, won't we? Car dealers may be forced to stop selling gap insurance. A review being carried out by the Financial Conduct Authority could stop car dealers from offering gap policies, but consumers should still be able to get better value cover elsewhere. Now, I've reported on this previously, gap insurance effectively being withdrawn from the market by the FCA. But it says here, according to information supplied by ALA Insurance, some online sellers are able to continue providing gap insurance until the 30th of April. If the provider's submission shows fair value and best practices, they will be able to continue to sell gap insurance beyond April. But it looks like car dealers might not be able to sell it in future, or at least not be able to sell it directly. So more news on this as it comes. I will be doing a dedicated video on gap insurance once we've got some firm details about it. But at the moment, one or two online sellers can sell until the 30th of April by the looks of it. And it looks like if they're able to show the FCA that they're doing things what they consider to be the right way and ticking the correct boxes, they'll be able to sell online again, which means you guys, the consumers, have choice. You can choose to buy a product or not. It's entirely up to you. But it looks like car dealers just might not be able to sell it. Who knows? Keep your eyes peeled for that one, because it's going to be an interesting video with lots of information. Volume no longer a dirty word as Nissan looks to grow again. After its floor plan didn't work, the Japanese firm's new plan targets sales quality over quantity. Nissan had previously said that they wanted to sell 1 million more cars every year, and they've basically come out and said, actually, that's not the way we want to go. We want value over volume. So they want to sell effectively fewer cars, but make more money from those cars. And I think that's something we're seeing across the board. I think that's why new car prices are so high. And I think this is probably a result of the pandemic, part shortages and all that kind of stuff. When car manufacturers realised that people were prepared to pay more for cars, you sometimes had an 18-month wait for a new car, maybe a 2-year wait for a new car. And people were literally selling their brand new cars or their place in the queue, sometimes 10 grand over asking. You know, for some cars, particularly rare sporty cars, whatever, people were selling way over book price. So interesting. It's a bit of a shame because Nissan at the moment are producing 1 or 2 cars that are really good value, like the Qashqai. I've been talking about the lease deals on the Qashqai in my last lease deals video, but they're such good value, and it is a good car. I personally probably wouldn't want a 5-year-old one because they're not perhaps the best in terms of reliability, but a brand new one within its warranty period, why wouldn't you really? I mean, it's a good car, ticks loads of boxes, drives quite well, fairly well equipped, good value for money. So Nissan needs to be careful that they don't forget their place in the market and what's got them to this point, I think. But I think we'll see more manufacturers completely happy to sell fewer cars but make more money from each one they do sell. Please don't forget, if you want to have a chat with me about anything car related, you can go onto my website notaguru.co.uk, click that book now button, and it will open up my calendar. You can see when I'm free, book in a time that suits you. We can do it over the phone or on a video call just like this, and you get to ask me questions. I can give you hair tips, weight loss tips, or we can talk about cars. It's entirely up to you. Thanks ever so much for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And go and check out ALA Insurance. Remember, the code GYM10 gets you 10% off. Catch you on the next one.